She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
You gotta live it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta live it. Like, if you worked for me and I looked across the table and I was like, Thursday, 3 o'clock. And if you can't tell me what's happening Thursday at 3 o'clock,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
a problem. But it also takes a special mind to love it. Like, if you're doing scheduling or operations or advance, like, you shouldn't do it unless you really love it.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. You just heard a little bit of my chat with best-selling author and former Deputy Chief of Staff for President Barack Obama, Alyssa Mastromonaco. In this episode, we get into a lot of twists and turns. First, the crazy jobs Alyssa did before she became a top aide to a U.S. president. This is going to be very relatable. Stay tuned. What she thinks about people being late. Why you should always listen to Michelle Obama. Alyssa's skincare regimen and the types of facial she gets and how often. What President Obama did when her cat died. You are going to love this story. Oh my gosh. And finally, the stack of books that Alyssa is taking on her next vacation. We clearly have a lot to get into today, but for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a YouTube creator, professional speaker, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. You can find out more details about me by going to youtube.com/AMYTV. I have to just stop for a moment and sit here. I just re-listened to this conversation back, and I had a lot of decisions to make before publishing. And I'm going to tell you right now one very important thing. I am posting this completely uncut. I didn't shorten it. I didn't take anything out, and I did zero censoring. I don't like to prep people and say that we do things a certain way when I go into an interview because I want someone to be completely themselves. And thank you. Thank you, Alyssa. You are completely yourself in this episode, which is why I felt so compelled to just drop it like it's hot, because it is. It is hot. So this is your warning right now. There is no censorship of bad words in this episode, and there are opinions that may not be your own in this episode. But you know what? That, I think, is the really cool thing about life. And all in all, no matter if you have a different opinion or the same, we can learn something from everyone. And the number of things we can learn from Alyssa in this episode is lengthy. So please know that going in, and please know that if this isn't the right episode for you, then pass. It's all good. But I just want you to know that I was still thinking with your biggest priorities in mind. And that is why this is going to be one of the most groundbreaking episodes of Detail Therapy so far. So yeah, final warning, no babies in the room, earbuds recommended. With that, let's get into my chat with my next guest. Today, I'm sitting down with Alyssa Mastromonaco. As the youngest woman ever to be Deputy Chief of Operations at the White House, Alyssa kept our country running through a government shutdown, natural disasters, national tragedies, and history-making events. A key figure in the sisterhood of the Administration 44, she made the presence of women felt and their voices heard, redefining the traditional White House boys' club culture. Mastromonaco chronicled her time in Obama's inner circle in her acclaimed New York Times bestseller, Who Thought This Was a Good Idea? And other questions you should have answers to when you work in the White House. She's now got a new book called So Here's the Thing, Notes on Growing Up, Getting Older, and Trusting Your Gut, described as the 21st Century Girl's Guide to Life. Let's get into it with Alyssa Mastromonaco. Alyssa Mastromonaco, thank you for being on the show.
It is my pleasure.
Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? I think I do it because nobody was doing it for me when I was younger. And so mostly I'm trying to just let younger women know. And by younger, I mean like 15 to 45, maybe 50 or 60. Who knows what young is anymore.
Yeah.
Just kind of let them know that they're cool.
Yeah.
And that they're cool to do whatever they want to do. And that the job that you find that you have should be the thing that makes you feel good in your own skin.
I love that.
You shouldn't have to change yourself for the job you want.
I love
because
that.
you won't be stoked once you get it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to go straight in on this.
Go ahead.
I've been reading. So here's the thing, your new book.
Yes.
If anyone has not been paying attention, you're former Deputy Chief of Staff for President Obama.
Yes.
And my favorite, by far my favorite part of the book is where you talked about, it was a chapter called How Do I Get to Be You by the Time I'm 35? So it's kind of funny you're bringing up like jobs and like ages right now because I wanted to go straight in on this. And you specifically named every single job you've had.
Yeah.
Like in order. And I'm going to name just a few of them because there's a point to this. Babysitter, cashier at Dell's Daily Cream. Is it Dairy Cream?
Dairy.
Cleaner at Beekman Arms Hotel. Unpaid intern for Representative Bernie Sanders. Hostess, babysitter, audio transcriber, congressional intern for Bernie, right? Babysitter, real estate paralegal, secretary, client relations, staff assistant to John Kerry, advisor to Senator Obama, deputy chief of staff for President Obama, COO at Vice Media.
Yep.
Babysitter coming back?
Babysitter.
I added that last one.
You can never be too. Here's the thing. You always can take a risk on your jobs if you know that your number one priority is just paying the bills. And so if it means you got to go back and babysit, you got to go back and babysit.
I just love that because we never sit down and look at all of the things that we've done until you point this out. You know, when you're building out that dreaded resume that you're like, crap, I need to find a job.
Right.
And you think the least of yourself at that moment in time, not the most.
That is why I always say you should have your resume like always a draft copy, because when you actually need it, most likely you're not feeling your best and you're not going to do yourself justice.
Do you know what's so funny about that is I always tell people like, anytime I'm on a board or they're saying, oh, I've seen your resume, I'm like, that resume is like 10 years old because I don't need one. I own my business. And you are making me think like, oh crap, maybe I should just, while I'm feeling fancy free and fabulous, I should be writing my resume down just in case the whole world comes crashing down.
Sometimes I try to just think about like my responsibilities that I've had at least recently so that when someone asks me, I'm not like, I don't know. I oversaw stuff.
Are a variety of things. But I just wanted to point that out because, you know, you weren't doing things initially like cashier, cleaner, hostess, babysitter. And that was relatable because I did a lot of babysitting as the responsible oldest. And you do all these things and it doesn't mean you're a job hopper or you don't have focus. No. But what you're actually doing is just acquiring a set of skills.
It's a hustle.
It's a very specific set of skills.
It's a hustle. And any person also, if anyone thinks about the jobs they had, their quote unquote professional jobs between the age of like 22 and 26, chances are there was an element of customer service involved, whether you want to admit it or not.
Yes. And that is what I want to ask you. Like when you think about customer service, hospitality, cashier, babysitter, whatever it is, and the skills that you learned, whether it was long before or right before you started working for John Kerry and President Obama or Senator Obama, what are the skills you learned at those point in times that came in handy when you were working in politics?
They did. So one of my when I hire people, I don't think I've ever hired anyone who didn't have a customer service job in their background. My favorite was my deputy on the Obama campaign. She used to run the boat tours off of Victoria Island.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I was like, if she can put up with mad tourists,
like run them like
she was like the guide. And she would like sell the tickets and stuff. And so for me, I want people who know how to present themselves. Like you can't be an asshole like at the grocery store every day. You're going to get fired if you're a crappy bagger.
Nobody wants that.
You're going to get fired. And so those things come down to details matter. You know, being punctual. Like if someone's late for anything with me, I judge because
we have to talk about
Except
that.
I just want to say I did. Even coming here to see you, I made sure that I left in plenty of time because I had not navigated Hudson Yard. And so I did not want to keep you waiting. So,
well, to be fair, I did offer to come to you and
I didn't want that.
And I didn't
coming to you.
You know what? And that's so nice of you because I just basically hit up Gary and I'm like, Gary, can I use your office space? Just kidding. I asked his assistant and he's like, yeah, sure. So thanks for coming to Hudson Yards. I appreciate that. But I love pointing that out. Now let's talk about the lateness thing.
Yes.
Because this has been something I have been very passionate about and I love that you just brought it up. Passionate about because my career has been kind of a weird thing in the last 10 years. And in that time, as I've gotten more focused and excited about what I'm doing, I would find myself being late all the time because I'm like, I'm doing things. I'm getting the most out of every moment in time. I'm going to get that last email or, start the dishwasher or whatever, and I'm going to be 5 minutes late. And I started telling myself, like, people will understand because they see me online and they see I'm very busy, so they'll be okay with that.
No.
And then I started realizing that's not cool. That's so not cool. I'm sitting here saying my time is worth more than everyone else's.
Yes,
So
exactly.
are you one of those people that's like, yeah, it's fine when your late friends show up, but you're really thinking like, not again.
So here's,
not again.
I think if someone's late for dinner, I am a social occasion, right? So if they are late leaving work and they are late getting to me for dinner, I give a pass on that as long as I get a heads up. Like, hey girl, running late, little text. But for work, so as I talk about in everything I do, suffer from IBS. If I
love how much you talk about this in your books.
Here it comes into play. When I am late for something, I get anxiety. And I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes you can't do anything about it. If you're living here in New York City and, there's a crash on the FDR, what can you do?
Right.
And then I start getting nervous and I'm like, oh my God, on top of being late, I'm going to shit myself here in the Uber. And so instead of doing that, I just leave. It's like, look, if I think it's going to take a half hour, I leave an hour. You can't always do that, but I do it as much as I can so that I alleviate all of the other potential issues that will pop up if I am late. Including like when you're getting ready, think about the building you're going to. If you're going to have to check in at a security desk, like allow 15 minutes. I have a friend who works in the Empire State Building. If your meeting's at 3, you need to be there by 2:30. Otherwise, you're going to be late. And so it's worth it to have you or your assistant put in that effort just so that you show the respect of the people who you're going to see.
I actually talked about this a little bit in episode 2 with Matthew Santoro, and he has a system where he like starts evicting people from his life about how many times that they end up being late to things and probably not giving a good enough heads up.
I get that. I understand that.
Have you ever found yourself going like, I just feel like it's not going to be worth my time to get drinks with you, honey?
There are the flakers, right? And so those are the people who normally earlier that day are like, hey, tonight, I don't think I'm going to be able. That's fine. I mean, like, it's like the memes. Like, we're all fine when some people cancel sometimes. We're all happy to stay home. But, like, if someone is consistently like a Tasmanian devil, like, because if you're going to be late too, fucking pull your shit together.
Yeah.
At least come in and be present at the point which you were late. Don't bring all of that like weird self-important drama like, oh my God, it was so crazy and this happened and that happened and now I'm here.
That's the one thing that I started observing about not just myself but people around me when I was like, oh, this is the culture we're building now, is that if we're late, if we're as super apologetic when we show up, but apologetic in the sense that let me tell you all the things that are happening.
I don't want to hear about your shit.
Just like, honestly, I don't. And you could be like my dearest friend and I care about you deeply.
Right.
But I'm ready to hit the ground running on something else.
But like, show some
right
self-awareness. If you were at the gyno and it took a long time because the gyno found something, that I want to hear about. If you stopped at Century 21 to buy underwear and got stuck in traffic, that is a personal problem. That is not for me.
And also, the former is not a pattern building.
Exactly.
It's a serious occasion we need to discuss.
It is an anomaly.
I just want to thank you for your service to women. Because first of all, let me just point out how I even know who you are, because I was a very big fan of President Obama, but I didn't know a lot about his staff. And
there was a point to that, you know.
What?
You shouldn't know that much about presidential staff. It's fucking weird that we know as much about the people who work in this West Wing.
Wow.
Because theoretically, it should be about the people and the president, not the worker bees. But anyway, keep going.
I like the tangent. Thank you very much. But let me point out that you were a speaker at an event that my dear friend Sarah, who's been featured here on BFF Chats, when Sarah was working for the Women's Fund of Central Ohio, they put on an event and it was at Ohio State. And I was like, oh, this sounds fun and interesting. And you were just so much fun. And then we followed each other on Twitter and I was like, I need to hit her up at some point.
That
so
was
here
a
we
great
are.
event. John Glenn came, remember?
Yeah.
That was like a big moment.
That was, yeah. So think about that.
I was like, whoa.
R.I.P. John,
Glenn.
I miss you. Yeah. So yes, that was my first impression of you. And it was just like, wow. And I think at that point in time is when you took the vice job. Or it was either, it was very soon after and you hadn't landed yet at that point.
No, I was there. I think when I did that event, I was there and I was getting ready to leave.
Oh.
I'd been there. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I don't remember exactly that. Okay, so it's so funny because I feel like I remember, maybe I did know who you were right before that because I feel like I remember you announcing you were going. So anyway, so how did you like Vice? Like once you came out of politics and went into media, like what?
I did. You know what it is for me? It's always like the vibe. And so I always tell people that if you're going for a job, and look, let me just stipulate, I have learned these lessons because I have made these mistakes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's why we have people on the show. So we
That's-
cannot make your mistakes.
Right. That do not make my mistake. So there are things that I have learned in life. If you apply for a job and you, especially at a more senior level, right? And you're like, okay, so you're going to be the head of, you're head of marketing. And they don't let you meet the marketing team before you start. Yeah. They don't want you to visually see where the marketing team sits. That's a flag to me. And so to me, like space and just like environment means a lot. So I had been on to a ton of job interviews. And also when you leave the White House, everyone wants to pay you absurd amounts of money. And you're like, why? Like, why? And I was super pious about it because I realized that most of the other firms that were like, we're going to offer you basically what amounted to like, fuck you money. It was so
Yeah.
good. I knew that it was because they, in their gut, had designs on the last 2 years of the administration, me having access. And I did not want to make money for that purpose. So I
Yeah.
said no. So I kept looking around, and in the basket of female mentors, a wonderful woman, Ann Finucane at Bank of America, which just raised their minimum wage to $20 today. Yay, Bank of America. Ann Finucane is vice chair there. She saw me on Charlie Rose. On my Charlie Rose interview, reached out to me and was like, you're dope. I want to help you. I feel like we're similar. And she emailed me after I'd gone on all of these interviews and felt just like, bleh.
Yeah.
She emailed me and was like, I was just at dinner with Shane Smith and think you should go to Vice. And so Anne hooked me up with Shane. And when I walked into the original office, which was in Williamsburg, the North 10th on Williamsburg, I was like, I'm home.
Wow.
It was just crazy. It was like an old bus depot. It had folding tables and crappy chairs. It was kind of garbage, but it felt like a campaign office to me. I felt the energy. And in a lot of other places I had been, I felt walls and cubicles and doors. And even though the White House, of course, had tons of doors, it just was a much more like communal vibe. And so that was it. I walked the floor. I made them let me walk the floor, and I just tooled around, and it was super fun.
That's awesome. So you kind of wanted the vibe that you were used to, but you wanted to get out of politics at that point, right?
I did. I politics it's a grind, man. Like it's for someone who is self-aware about her desire to eliminate conflict in her life. Politics is a weird choice for someone who doesn't like conflict. So I'm like, okay, I'm done. We're going to be done forever.
Yeah.
I wanted like another act in my life. I wanted to learn another profession, and was not, there was a certain humility to that, right? That I was going in. Here I had ridden I was the continuity of government on foreign trips. I was the acting chief of staff. And was in the rank of a 3-star general. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put that on a shelf. And I am going to go to a place where the children, not children, that's not correct, where the young millennials
Thank you.
will be like, who is this bitch? Which they kind of were. But where I was I was like, I wanted to learn from Shane and Eddie Moretti, who was the head of content there, and learn something totally new. And so I went in like a very eager beaver. Like I just wanted to absorb everything.
Yeah.
I think I did. I learned a lot.
What did you take from that you're excited about now? Because that was your last like formal position, right?
That was I was the COO at Vice, and then one of Vice's major investors is A&E Networks, which owns Lifetime TV for women.
Right.
Which was run by Nancy Dubuque. And so I actually transitioned. The thing I learned at Vice is that I wanted to know more about linear television, despite the fact everybody says it's dying. I find it fascinating. And also had a lot of interesting ideas to take to Lifetime. So I did that. And unfortunately, my first day? It was like my first or second day at A&E was Trump's inauguration. And when you're in a corporate environment, the corporation, by the way, that's owned by ABC and Disney, you shouldn't. You got to be a little self-aware about what you're saying on social media and what you're tweeting about. And one day I came in, Donald Trump had said something to the effect of that Barack Obama and former presidents didn't call the parents of soldiers killed in action. And when you say something like that, I don't use the word trigger a lot. It triggered me. I started bawling in the office. I'm like, who the fuck does he think he is? And so I sent a tweet where I made my feelings clear. And that night, my face and my tweet and my old pictures of me from the White House led every cable news, led every network news, and did so again the next morning. And so when I went into the office, I was getting ready to like apologize to everyone, but like no one had seen it. And then I realized that I was I lived in a different
What another
plane.
dimension? Yeah.
Right. And so despite the fact that I never wanted to get back into politics, I did feel the need to be unfettered. And so I did leave A&E, so that at that time I actually went straight from A&E to be a volunteer for NARAL, National Abortion Rights Action League, to fight against the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh, which we lost.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's full circle. Finished my book, and here we are.
So how do you feel about what's happening in Ohio right now? That's not on the news, like hardly at all. It seems like we're going in the wrong direction on that front with the abortion law.
I mean, everything. Look, it's like Donald Trump is doing a tremendous job, and the GOP. They're all hashtag complicit. They're doing a tremendous job of keeping everybody's attention on what loosely amounts to stupid shit, right? Like, I definitely want the Mueller report to be released, but people are spending disproportionate amount of time worrying about that, while the GOP at a grassroots level, which is what they've been doing for years, is passing their agenda and trying to, in Georgia, in Mississippi, and Alabama, and all these states across the country, trying to essentially make abortion illegal with the heartbeat ban, which says that after 6 weeks, most women don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks, that abortion is illegal. And so that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, and I just only want to point this out on the level that it's really tough territory to talk about because everybody has a different opinion. But the reality is that if we've learned anything in the last almost 4 years now, it's that we've never seen more than now how much not the media, but in general, anyone can twist what we're actually thinking about, what we're focused on based on what their agenda is. It doesn't even matter what party they are. And quite frankly, it's effective because if you can point to the birdie over there, you can get something else done underneath all of that. And that's really scary. And I just want people to think about that more when it comes to things that actually matter to them. Instead of splitting yourself into one crowd or another. What bothers you about the state of things and what can you do about it? And how can you not let the little birdie distract you from it? So I just wanted to point that out. But this line of work is like crazy. And one of the things in the book that you actually did was interview your PLP.
Yes.
Your platonic life partner,
Dan Pfeiffer.
And he said in this one of the answers to the questions, which I loved the line of questioning, by the way, because he's like, I'm not falling for this. And he didn't provide answers to some
That's how we are.
But he said he would never have survived 2 years of campaigning and 6 years at the White House without you.
Yes.
And that got me thinking.
And that is mutual. I'm
sure
true
it
all
is,
around.
which is why you're PLPs, which I love. But what does it really take to be somebody in this environment?
So it's very hard. And the thing that's interesting is that, there are, if you break down sort of the different kinds of people that are in the White House, I think that we felt as young people who didn't have kids that there was no excuse for us to feel tired. If there were people sitting at the same table we were every day at 7 a.m. and they were there, then how could we be tired? Like there's a different level of stress, but also a lack of emotional maturity. We were 32, 33, some shit. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And we had to sort of exist at a level that takes some people a lot more time to emotionally mature to the place where you might be even better at handling that level of stress. But for us, it required, I would say more than anything, humor, which is why I just refuse to not be. If there's like an environment and I can't be myself, which is kind of funny, or at least irreverent, whatever, I don't know what you call it. It just doesn't work. And so Pfeiffer and I would always, like my favorite time was we had a chief of staff. I don't even remember if I wrote about this. We had a chief of staff who was very upset about something. We were in Brazil, and he yelled at me in front of everybody for something that I actually hadn't done. And my bottom lip starts to quiver, and I start biting the side that's already scarred from biting it all the time. And Pfeiffer comes over, and he's like, buddy, you are not going to fucking cry right now. Okay. You are not going to give him the satisfaction. And he pulled out his iPad, which was like a new thing back then because it was many years ago. And he's like, you know what you love? And I was like, is that Angry Birds? And so everyone's sitting there being like super serious. And I'm like, pew! And I was killing things with my birds.
I feel like Angry Birds came out to make sure the iPad took off. Like, I feel like it was an Apple plan, honestly.
Greatest thing, but like he knew, and some people, I told that story once, and they're like, he infantilized you. Fuck off. He made me not cry in front of the chief of staff who wanted me to cry. He wanted to break me. He didn't break me because I had Angry Birds and because Pfeiffer saw that coming.
I love it.
It's true.
Okay, I read this story in the book, and I had to read it multiple times because it cracked me up so much because I almost didn't pick up what was going on. So I want you to just retell it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it'll be even better from you.
Okay.
The chapter about always listen to Michelle Obama.
Oh, yeah.
What happened at this dinner? Where were you?
Okay.
And what was she trying to
So here's a
tell
little
you?
backstory. Is that when you travel abroad, most countries, depending on how many times you've been there, if it's your first visit, want to throw the American president a state dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mrs. Obama, formerly Michelle to me, but now forever Flotus, she was like, you are here. You are their guest. I don't want to see people on Blackberries. I want everyone talking. You get the because you would get a briefing.
Oh, I love that.
You would get a briefing about who was sitting on either side of you.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, and so I would go deep into the briefing because sometimes it was just 2 sentences. I would Google them and try to find other things about them. And so once we were in Chile and everyone's like, and I had to sit up on the dais, like it was the president and then like their prime minister, president, whatever, and then me. And at the end of the dinner, the chief of protocol, Capricia Marshall, was like, what were you talking to them about? I was like, oh, the fjords, the salmon, it's better than Norway. And she's like, God love you. But that's what it takes. You know, like you have to like go in and lead with curiosity.
Yeah.
But like have something to back it up. So I was always the one who liked to catch Michelle's eye and be like, oh, the tourism minister wants to do a conga line. And I'd like get up and start doing it. And I always wore something like colorful and fun to show like, that we too were part of the celebration. And so we were in Tanzania at the end of a very long trip. And I was sitting next to the most interesting woman. I think she ended up being the first foreign minister in Tanzania. She's so interesting. And I'm just like yucking it up and eating all of this like meat off of a stick. I mean, there was just all kinds of stuff. And this is not in any way any sort of like, I'm not dissing Tanzania in any way.
No.
But they, between courses, well, as we were eating, I see the first lady look at me and give me this look that's like, girl. And I was like, with my eyes, like, what? And she was just giving me a very like direct stare. And I'm like, what is Michelle trying to tell me? And I'm like, I am. And at first I thought that she didn't see me, regaling the people around me. And I was like, no, I'm doing it. And then she was just like, like she just looked at me like I wasn't picking up what she was putting down, which turned out to be the exact truth. So what happened is they were bringing us hot towels between courses because some of the food was finger food.
Which are just delightful when you get them.
You
the
love
hot
it
towels
when
just
you're
like,
on
yes, you're
JetBlue
right.
and they give you that, and you're
I
like,
needed to do this.
Eucalyptus and lemon. So it turned out that these were towels that were being used and then put back into the kitchen, kind of run through hot water again, and then given back to us. Okay.
How did she know this?
Secret Service.
Oh my gosh.
They're like,
I need to get Secret Service.
They were kind of like, heads up, don't touch, like, you're good without the towel kind of thing.
Like,
so anyway,
you're clean.
I don't think anything of it. We get back to the White House, and a couple days later, I am in like ridiculous pain. Like I'm convinced I either have like an ovary's about to burst. It is the most extreme intense pain.
God.
I run down to the White House medical office. And part of my position, one of the benefits of my position is that I had a physician who was assigned to me at the White House. And
Was that their full-time job?
No, not just me. No, they had lots of jobs. I was like a
depend on the
footnote.
person?
I was a footnote. And I was like, I think you need to give me like a pelvic exam like right now. Like I think I'm going to die. And they're like, no, like we think you're okay. What is it? And so I go home. And I'm literally splayed out like a Law and Order SVU chalk outline on my floor. I am just like this mangled, like in so much pain. And they bring me painkillers. And so then I have to do a bunch of tests. And they determine that I had Giardia, which is a parasite commonly known as beaver fever because the beavers upstate in the St. Lawrence River Seaway apparently spread it around many years ago. But yeah, so I had Giardia, and then I went back to the First Lady's office, and I was like, just so you know.
Thank you for making eyes at me. I will never not listen to them again.
Next time I'm going to stand up, walk down, and be like, what are you trying to tell me?
Yes.
Because that was a really painful way to live. It was a solid 7-day bad.
That's
And it was
horrible.
and the thing is, when you get that kind of sick, you lose weight, but it's like fake weight.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
not like, oh,
you
great,
finally
this
feel
is happening.
good and you eat one meal and you're like, how did I gain 11 pounds in one meal? So there was no upside to it whatsoever.
Okay, so the tip is if Michelle Obama's making eyes at you,
Just stop whatever you're doing.
drop everything.
Just drop it.
Drop everything. And definitely walk over to her because it's a great reason to walk over to her.
Because there's
anyway.
nobody smarter. And she's looking out for all of us at all times.
Okay, so what was the best part about working at the White House?
Oh, the best part.
The very best part. The part that's like, other than having a personally
you mean
assigned
like
physician.
So, do you want like the noble best part or the?
I want the dirt. Like I want something.
So
fun.
I'm going to tell you this.
Okay.
When you when you walk out of the White House and you get onto Marine One and you up and out, and then you land and you get on Air Force One, and like whatever country, like it's one thing if you're landing in another American city, but when you go abroad and there's just like such, Jackie Kennedy is the one who came up with the colors, the robin's egg blue, the shades of blue that are on Air Force One.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And so,
That makes so much sense.
when you land in a city, it's just it's like spectacular. Like you feel really special because they roll out the red carpet for you every
Yeah.
time. And one of the first trips we ever took was to NATO, which was, it was NATO. It was our first NATO. And it was in Baden-Baden and Strasbourg. It was on the border of France and Germany. And so when you go to NATO, a lot of other leaders have flown in. So all the planes are parked, right? And so all the planes are parked, and then Air Force One rolls in, and you're just like, what? And our plane is so much better. Nobody else has, all the other planes are a bit busted by comparison.
Yeah. Like there's no plane like Air Force One.
The sassiest thing I probably ever did as it relates to Air Force One was when we were at a summit in Indonesia. And do you remember when the Icelandic volcano erupted and that plume traveled around the world? Well, that plume literally stalked us on every foreign trip we were doing for 9 months. So we're in Indonesia. The captain of Air Force One talks to the military aide who carries the nuclear football, who then comes to me and says, the plume's coming. And if we don't get out, if we're not the first on the tarmac, we could potentially be screwed.
Yeah.
For actually being able to take off to America. Because for those who don't know, if you fly through plume, it can melt your engine.
Whoa.
Yes. And
Yeah, get out of there.
The captain says to me, he's like, the Chinese are ahead of us. The Chinese plane was in front of us. And I was like, gangster. I was like, pull out in front of him. I don't care. And he was like, are you sure? Is that a direct order? And I was like, it's direct order. And so then we got on the plane and POTUS was like, oh, thank God we got out in time. And I was like,
Thank Alyssa.
I screwed the Chinese. He was like, what? But I did. You're welcome. We got home. But I felt like at one point I was like, I am the coolest person. And then also I could get in so much trouble potentially.
We're going to hang on to that story
But
for a
we're
later
still
date.
here. Yes, exactly.
I love that you brought up Air Force One because my next question was going to be if someone has the opportunity to get on that plane, what is the thing that they should try to steal as a keepsake?
Oh, steals a keepsake. So you're going to want the napkins.
Okay.
The napkins are big. There's usually a deck of playing cards.
Oh, really?
Yes. You want the playing cards and you want the napkins. And what else? That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean, like, you can't
sometimes
cut,
there's
like,
a styrofoam cup. So the cups have the presidential seal on them.
Okay.
And
There you
so
go.
I'm not going to lie. I still have one
I was
at
going to
home.
say, like, you
it's in the
gotta
back
have
of
some
the
this
cupboard.
stuff.
Yeah, I do. And
Like,
it's styrofoam. So
we'll
it's not
move this
quite
everywhere.
styrofoam, but it's still in the back of the cupboard.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. Okay. So how much of working in politics, working at the White House is like Veep? Because I'm obsessed with that show.
So have you already watched the new season?
Yes. I'm
stressed.
on Why?
I don't know. I'm just stressed about
Because
Amy
it's
and
the
Dan.
end.
I know.
Oh, I agree. Why?
I don't know. It's weird. What's wrong with him?
I know.
No spoilers for
No
anyone who has, but like
spoilers.
catch up so that you can talk
Watch
about
the whole
it.
thing, please. Start
No,
from the beginning.
so here's the thing. Of all the shows that are out there, I'm going to break them down for you.
Okay, let's do it.
So in terms of process and protocols and kind of what the White House looks like, Veep is at the top.
Wow.
Now, Veep,
That's scary.
It's-
on so many levels.
I mean, of course, it's like hyper comedy, but like there's a lot of accuracy in the details.
Okay.
Scandal was fun to watch, but like was very low, like very few details. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, it came out when we were in the White House, and my deputy, who used to do the boat tours over in
yeah.
Washington,
Yeah,
she and I would be on the phone being like, "This is such fake ass shit right now," because Fitz just called Olivia and said he needed a secure line, but she was on a cell phone, so it can't be a secure line.
Right.
And
Do the
her
math, people.
and her then boyfriend, now husband, was like, "If you all don't suspend like your belief in reality right now and just enjoy the show, you're gonna not be permitted to watch it because I can't listen to this," you know? So Scandal, no. The West Wing, in terms of the television show The West Wing by Aaron Sorkin,
Yes.
is very accurate.
Really?
Watching it now, it feels a bit misogynist.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So many people would ask me, they're like, "So were you Donna?" I was like, "No, I was Josh Lyman." Like, what? I
Yeah,
wasn't Josh's
yeah.
assistant. I was Josh. But when they talk about policy and they talk and like the day to day, and it's incredibly accurate for a pre 9/11 White House world. But I mean, it's really, if people want to go back, and the other thing too is I have gone back recently and rewatched the whole series. Like, your brain will explode because what's old is new again.
You know what?
All of the topics are the same.
Somebody has tweeted that recently, that there was like a really scary example of something that happened on The West Wing, or maybe it was another show that was like, this is actually happening now. And
Yes.
even though times have changed, like really scary situations can still come back and,
Yeah.
and happen again. But West Wing was such a good show. The one thing I remember about The West Wing is the show when the president needed to like pull on his ear to get someone's attention because he was going through something medically.
Oh, yes.
Did that ever happen? Did President Obama have like a signal, like, come and
No.
save me from this situation?
No, sometimes he would give you a look. So some of these things that we would
Is it similar to the Michelle look? Or
No,
you
it's
should have
different.
known?
It's different. His is more of a side eye.
Okay.
And that would mean usually that like something was going on way too long. You know, because some people,
Then we need to come up with what that look is for me.
it's like in that movie Four Christmases, pineapple. Just say pineapple.
Pineapple.
Just say pineapple.
Like, I'm sorry, I just
But
said
no, that was
pineapple
it.
randomly.
Sometimes things would go long, and he would get irritated because if something was going long, that somebody else was waiting.
Somebody else is
because
waiting.
we don't keep people
We don't like to
waiting.
be late.
Right. Because most of the times, if someone is coming to the White House to do something, they have flown in for it. And so he doesn't keep people waiting.
I love that. Good. Okay, well, then you had a great example set for the whole don't be late thing.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
if
yeah.
everyone's
there you go.
time is worth something. That's so good to hear. Okay, so I went to Instagram and I asked for questions for you because I just couldn't pass up on
Go
saying-
ahead. I love Insta questions.
Chatting with Alyssa. Elizabeth Lucy said, how do you prioritize requests and demands when everything seems important? I feel like this was a good question because that happened to you maybe a lot in the office where you're working somewhere where it seems like everything is important. But
Yes.
you've got to get work done, but you've also got to go to meetings. You've got to do this. You've got to be there.
So
How
I'm
do
a
you
list
prioritize?
maker.
Okay.
And so I like to prioritize the immediate. Like, what do I urgently need to do today? What can wait till tomorrow? What needs to get done this month? Basically, so that if it's not all jumbled up, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like if I have to pick up my Nuva ring next week,
Oh my
that doesn't need to be on this week's to-do list. But like those things need to be on the to-do list.
Can I tell you, I've never met someone who is also on the Nuva ring.
I love the Nuva.
I've had it since I was 17.
I've had it since I was 22.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, I had it for 21 years. That's
a long time.
That's crazy. Oh my God,
my
I hadn't thought
gosh.
about that.
So many
you
things
guys,
happening
I was like
right
a
now.
pioneer. I was like a Nuva ring pioneer.
Yeah, I wish they would. No, maybe I don't. But I'm like, I was always paying so much money with. I'm sorry, I've had such a difficult time with healthcare ever since I couldn't be on my parents anymore.
Yes.
Where it was like there was was never a generic version of this.
Yes.
And it was like I would go in and the pharmacy would be judging me for the fact that I was spending so much on it.
It was like $75 a month at one point.
I was paying $130 multiple times.
It was crazy.
And then I finally got to a phase where the pharmacist would go, this should not cost you anything. And their emotions would come through.
Of course.
And I just kept having to say, like, I am on the same page as you, but it's better than the alternative.
It was the only thing I could
I have
use
to manage
reasonably.
my life. I know what's best for everyone.
But also when it comes to prioritizing, you can't deprioritize yourself entirely, right? So if you're in the office and you have to get X, Y, and Z done, but you do need to pick up your Nuvaring that day, you got to do it. You got to put that on the list. And so I have
you have to say no sometimes.
You do have to say no sometimes.
Do you ever say no to the president? Probably not.
No, you don't say no. But I will say that there were plenty of times, this is a true story, I had for many, many years a Katrina rescue cat named Shrummy, my beloved fuzzy butt. And he was kind of like our mascot, like in the very beginning of the Obama, like when I was in the Senate office and then I moved over to be the political director in the PAC. I lived in a very small, old apartment on Capitol Hill that needed to be fumigated from time to time. And so the Shrum runner would just come to the office with me because people were cool with it. They're like, sure, Shrummy can come today. And so when Shrum, it was 2014, 13, whatever, at the end of the year, the Shrum got sick and we didn't know what was wrong with him and we had all these doctor's appointments. And so when we finally figured out what was wrong with him, the ideal situation was that he did physical therapy 3 times a day because his back legs had started walking, but they were convinced, it stopped working. They were convinced with proper physical therapy that Shrummy would walk again. And of course I'd stop at nothing for my Shrum.
Oh my God.
And so I mentioned it in passing. And basically the people at that time who were doing Barack Obama's schedule and the senior staff schedules would make sure that nothing I needed to be at was between 12 and 1 so I could go home and do physical therapy. So I never told Barack Obama no because nobody ever made me
have to say it.
Like if there was something that was immovable, like of course I would
Of course, right.
But if at all possible and it didn't junk up anybody else's shit too much.
How long did that go on?
Oh, a couple months.
Oh, wow.
Because he walked again. The physical therapy worked.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
And he's gone now, or
he passed away.
Oh wow.
But it's okay. He had a wonderful, tremendous life.
You extended the heck out of that life.
God bless him. And at the very end, they always say that the pets tell you, and they do. He told me it was his time. And one of my girlfriends who was working in the White House at the time, her dog had passed away 2 months earlier. She replaced me when I left, and we were always tight all the way back to the Senate office. And so I had emailed her because when her dog passed away, she said, look, when Shrummy's time comes, you got to make sure you tell me, like, you don't go through this alone. And so I tell her, I'm in the car with my husband, and my phone rings, and it's this weird number, and I'm super upset. We had just, we're like, ugh, like, what do you do? We had just left the vet.
Yeah.
And I answer the phone, and the Air Force One operator, it is the Air Force One operator, and he says, ma'am, Alyssa Mastromonaco. And I said, yes. This is the Air Force One operator. Do you have time for the president? And I said, yeah, of course. And he's like, we sure do miss you up here. And I'd never actually really gotten a call from Air Force One before because I was always on.
You were on
Air Force One for the most part. And so the president, she had told the president who called to tell me it was the day he was in Alaska renaming Mount McKinley Denali. And he called to tell me that he was certain he saw Shrummy's spirit float over Denali. And here's the thing. So here's the thing, is that when you think of all the things that people have to do all the time, and the fact that he not just called me to say that, but just had the generosity and to be like, no, we saw his spirit over Denali. And I was like, that's where he was meant to be. And then I was like, this is really awkward for you, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you for calling.
Oh
but yeah, that's why. But that's a point, though, that no matter how big you ever are, that shit really matters.
Yeah.
I'll never forget all the things that I ever did in the White House. That is will always be my most, even though I was not seeing him in person, it'll be one of my most vivid memories,
I love that you said that because a number of people asked, is President Obama who we see on TV?
Yes.
I mean, I
He's
don't
better,
question for a second.
actually. He's better IRL.
Has to be. I mean, like when you're reading a prompter, you can't truly be yourself.
It is, no, but I mean, there was just, we cannot discount, especially in this day and age, the need for empathy and how important that really is. And when you actually...
And how desirable it is in a presidential figure.
Yes, I mean, if you look back, like it's hard to find a president who was not able to demonstrate empathy ever before. President Obama was particularly... he was someone who I really felt could, in his mind, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So he wasn't just it wasn't just lip service. He really felt it, like there were some very terrible things that we witnessed there. And when you see what someone has to pull together to be able to get up in front of all of the families in Newtown 3 days after the Sandy Hook shooting and be able to comfort this town and a nation by extension, that's so huge. That's not. It is important. And yeah.
That's just. It's important. It's nice to hear, and especially because that was such a period of time in your life. You want that for someone. You want that to be the case in their work, and that they're taking positive experiences and some negative forward. So they,
of course,
can teach us all the things.
Nothing's 100% positive.
Of course.
Everybody should know that.
Right. Okay. So somebody asked such a good question because everything I talk about is very much about efficiency and scheduling and how are we using the calendar to our advantage and things like that's very much sounds like your wheelhouse. Who was it? Cortez said anything about scheduling. Just like, do you have any tips on managing a super high stress moving schedule for someone, whether it's yourself or somebody else? What did you guys tend to...
We memorized.
What is that logistic? Oh.
You got to live it, man.
Yeah.
You got to live it. Like if you worked for me and I looked across the table and I was like, Thursday, 3:00. And if you can't tell me what's happening Thursday at 3:00,
oh my gosh,
it's a problem. But it also takes a special mind to love it. Like if you're doing scheduling or operations or advance, like you shouldn't do it unless you really love it, because I do think that it requires the reason I always loved my job is that I thought it used both parts of my brain. And I thought and I'm very good when I'm using both parts. But I mean, there were times when we would have to go in to the president and walk through like a foreign trip schedule. And I mean, most of the time I didn't need paper because that's just, you want to be able, that's your sole function. Yeah. And so if you're working for someone and that is your sole function, you've got to live it and breathe it. And I'll never forget, there was one time, it was the night before the Iowa caucuses, and then Senator Obama was flying around, and one of the girls in Iowa instant messages me, right? Might have been AOL, I don't even know. And I was in New Hampshire at that time because everybody went to Ohio or Iowa. I went to New Hampshire, and they're like, Danielle's going to call you, and she's really upset, and she thinks she made a really big mistake. And I was like, okay. And so she calls me, and it turned out that the plane was supposed to be, I think, in Cedar Rapids, and it might have been in Waterloo. And she's
oh my gosh, you're freaking me out because the last episode of Veep, the first one.
So that is based on a different thing that happened. That's not this story. That was the time the plane actually went with everybody on it to the wrong place.
Cedar Falls.
This was just the empty plane.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry, but that was just so close.
But it was a real story.
Wow.
But she called me up and she's like, the plane is in the wrong place. And I was like, guess what? That shit happens. I'm like, where are the pilots? And she's like, I don't know. They said they went for dinner. I'm like, call every Applebee's and Olive Garden
find out
that
where
you can find.
are.
And guess what? We found them. And they got
because
on the plane.
Applebee's and Olive Garden is the way to go.
That's where are you going to find a quick meal? Right near an airport. Applebee's, Chili's, Olive Garden. And we found them. They got to the plane. We didn't really lose much time. And I was like, just get your shit together. You got this. Guess what? It happened. We're going to fix
Reel it in
and we're
move
good.
forward. Love that. Okay. All right. Well, we have to get into the details part of the show.
All right.
Because I want to hear what is life like for Alyssa. So tell me what it's like to wake up in the morning. Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a time that you wake up? What do you do?
So my morning has really evolved over the years.
Okay.
I used to get up at 4:45. Now it's more like 7:15.
Okay. That's reasonable.
6:30 and 7:15, depending on what I got going on. A couple days a week, I go to a personal trainer and I work on my push-ups and my quads and my back strength so that I don't need back medicine anymore. I always make my pot of coffee first. I don't have a coffee machine. I've never had one. I do the pour over.
Oh, okay.
But I've done it since it wasn't cool. Like my dad's been doing it for like
Now
70
it's
years.
Instagrammable. Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, we're so posh. I've never been posh. My shit's plastic. And I just do it in. And then I will take my shower. Actually, I'm going to be truthful. If I don't have anything going on that day, I may just wash my face. Depends.
Oh, yeah. No, shower is optional if you have nowhere to be.
It's optional.
Yeah.
It's too much. There's too many.
It's so many things.
So many things.
Why don't people talk about this? Like, a woman showering is not the same thing as a man showering.
No.
There's a full decision like, well, I have to put a shower cap on if I don't have time to do my hair.
Yes.
And all of these other things have to happen, like shaving.
No.
Yeah.
So if I have to shower, then I shower, and then you come out and I put on my toner and my
yeah.
serum and my moisturizer,
very important
and then you
things.
let it sink in, and then you do your body lotion, and then you have to let that sink in, especially if you're wearing leggings, as I like to do.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my morning routine.
Love that. What's your favorite skincare? Like, what have you always been tried and true with stuff, or do you try new things?
No, I try new things. There's this Goop
Yeah.
daily exfoliator that I really like. And there's that. The PS 160, I think it's called. It's Biologique. Anyway, it's the
Oh.
toner.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I use
Yeah.
that all the time.
I think
and
I've
then
heard of that. Yeah.
It's really good. And then I also use a lot of Kate Somerville products.
Oh, I love Kate Somerville.
And SkinCeuticals. Those are like my go-tos.
Yeah.
Because I don't wear makeup.
Yeah.
So my skin's got to look kind of good.
And also, like, your skin is very, very good quality.
Well, I'm not
Probably
gonna
'cause you're
lie.
not putting makeup all over.
I had a pretty posh facial a couple days ago.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
I just want
Well,
to be. I
but
want to
that's
be
the thing.
honest.
What's your facial schedule? Like, how often do you get that done? Is that
So
a
a
part of the process?
hardcore facial 4 times a year.
Or is there like a less core?
Yeah. So like the other day, I got microderm, I got LED light, and I got micro current.
Okay.
All in one session.
I stopped doing microderm because I heard it was like you don't really need to do it if you're doing a good job of just exfoliating in general
Yeah.
and
So
going
here's
and
the
getting facials.
truth: I get period zits, and I need those microdermed off.
Get it out of here.
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
need to
Have
get
you
it
ever tried dermaplaning?
No.
Shaving?
No, that
shaving
seems
facial.
That seems scary.
I'm totally doing it. I love it so
Really?
much.
I tried microneedling and I couldn't take the
But
pain.
the thing is, like, oh my gosh. Yeah, my pain threshold is like crazy. I'm like doing microblading.
I tried
like, the
so
whole
hard.
thing.
Like my eyes are watering, and the anesthetician is like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Not really, but I paid for it, so
sacrifice.
I'm gonna see it through."
Also, like, I don't think you would be that concerned about dermaplaning because the main benefit from it is how your makeup lays afterward. It's a
yeah.
totally different
No,
canvas.
that's
So
not
if
for
you're not
me.
worried about that, then don't worry about it.
So that's my facial, and then a
Yeah.
couple times I'll just go for like an exfol or like a peel or something once in a while if I'm feeling dull.
Yeah. I love that. I just love that. People underestimate just having a good facial, even if you can let's say you can only do it 4 times a year, you don't have to do it all
Right.
the time.
No, you
and
don't.
It's a lot of money for some people.
It
so
is.
it's fine. But there's also quick facials. There's lots of people that
Oh,
offer
you know what
like
I'm into? I tried the Hanicure.
What's that?
Oh my god!
I don't think
you
I
don't
know
know the
what that is.
Hanicure.
No.
It's the Korean facial, and you put it on. You like paint it on your face, and then it gets really tight. I saw it because
Oh.
Drew Barrymore did it, and we have the
Really?
same birthday, so I follow her religiously.
As you know, so you have to
And
do that.
it makes you look crazy, and it pulls all your skin back. But then when you peel it off, like when you wash it off, you look amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually found that to be pretty affordable. It ends up being like $25 per.
Okay, so if you can't go to get a facial yet, try the Hanicure.
Yeah, I thought the Hanicure was
I'm
pretty
going to
good.
be doing that now. Okay, great, perfect. Do you have a trainer? You said that's your
Yes.
workout regimen. What else do you do for self care other than gym and facials? Do you make
Gym,
time for?
facial. I love music. I mean, my self care is going to concerts.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's the one thing I'm always saying to Vin. Every time I go to a concert, I'm having so much fun. That's the moment that I'm like, why don't I do this more?
that's the.
It's a different feel than anything else is going to offer me.
And you know, when I was in the White House for all those years, I did not go to many concerts. Maybe like 1 a year, maybe 2.
Because you were busy, right? Not
Because
for
we
other
were
reasons.
because we were busy, and you know, it's just we're busy, and like you don't want to spend that kind of money on something and then not be able to go to it or anything like that.
Or have something happen and you can't make it.
No, but are you kidding? Right now, I'm figuring out my show tour to see the Dead and Company the latest incarnation of the Grateful Dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Mountain View, Hollywood Bowl. I don't know where I'm going to go this summer.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm literally living, like, if you saw me drive my car and talk the way I'm talking, you're like, wow, you're living the life you wanted to be as a 16-year-old boy in upstate New York. It's like my Escape.
But you got there.
My Ford Escape has so many bumper stickers on the back. It's like I collect them now, and then I just like roll up to my Dead shows. I don't know who I think I am. But that's my self-care, because at the end you just feel awesome.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, you look and you see thousands of people singing. Like, how can the world be that bad?
Exactly.
I mean, it can be.
Well, it's
but
a
not in
good
that
reminder
moment.
that we're not at the point of no return. We're far from it. And we can enjoy each other no matter what.
Broadway shows fall under the same umbrella as concerts. I've been
agree.
seeing a lot of shows.
Did you see Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like that was a stupid question. Thank you for looking at me like it was a stupid question, because
girl,
we finally saw it. We finally saw it, like literally a couple months ago.
No judgment. I mean, just because you live in New York.
No, I don't live in New York.
You don't live here?
No.
Oh my God, I thought you lived here.
No, that's the whole reason. Is I was thinking we'll go see it in New York, but this is the most expensive place, I think, to see it.
Yeah, it is.
And maybe except for when they did their stint in Puerto Rico in January. But they finally came to Columbus, and I was like, we are going. We went for Valentine's Day, actually. So how many times have you seen it then?
Twice.
I knew it. I knew it was more than once.
Twice. But I have to say that the must-see right now is To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
I've
incredible.
heard good things.
It's incredible.
Okay, write that down, Ben. We have to go see that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get
Well, you know, the thing is, like, now they're doing all these limited runs,
yeah.
you know, and so...
Okay, good tip. Okay, are you a big reader? You're a big writer, but are you a big reader?
I am. I have a lot of books.
Yeah.
But I go in fits and
many leather-bound books.
I go in fits and spurts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Like, sometimes I really can only, I'm like in a mindset where I can only watch The Bachelor.
Absolutely.
Just kind of.
Absolutely.
You know? And then sometimes I will read. I actually have, we're leaving the city and we're going upstate for a couple weeks.
Nice.
And I have my stack of books.
Oh, good.
And I have to say, the breadth of my my literary journey is pretty wide this time. We've got Prairie Bitch.
Okay.
But Nellie from Little House on the Prairie wrote a memoir years ago. We've got that one.
That's what the name of the
Yes,
book is.
my pal Chelsea Handler's book came out today.
Oh, awesome.
Life Will Be the Death of Me. So I've got that one. Another new book called Savage News by Jessica Yellen, who used to be at CNN. And then I'm looking for some good fiction, because I'm
change it
reading a
up.
lot of like real life, which I could use less of. What's the other book I got? I got a couple. I might
Okay,
have
so
to
then
post them.
yes, I'm really glad you shared that list. I also want to hear like what you've read in the past that you really loved. Was there any book, it could be fiction or nonfiction, but was there any book that was really game changing for you? Something that helped you change your mindset, whether it was career oriented or just...
So I'm going, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What was
So
it?
my, there were two books that I carried around in the White House that gave me joy, like pure
You carried
joy.
around two books. Okay, yes. I need to know what these are immediately.
Paperbacks. Okay, so
good.
one was Are You There, Vodka? It's Me, Chelsea by
Yeah,
Chelsea Handler.
that's a good one.
And then the other two, there were actually two others, and they were both books by Mindy Kaling.
Are you
And
serious?
Yes. I wish I could tell you I was a high-minded.
No,
but I
that's
carried around War
spectacular.
and Peace. Those were my three books, because they made me. I saw a lot of. I found Mindy very relatable,
Yeah,
like
she
very
is.
relatable. And
She
one of the
is.
only shows I made time for every week was the Mindy Project, which even my husband loved.
Oh,
like when
good.
it would be on, I'd like DVR it if I was going to be home late.
It's so much more fun when
And
you both like the show,
It's
too.
so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And I would like be like, oh, I'm going to go upstairs and watch it. He's like, no, I want to see what happens with Mindy and Danny. And I was like, what? And so then,
You do.
but this is a great Barack Obama love connection story.
Why?
So we were up here in New York for the UN General Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Maybe it was a fundraiser. For whatever reason, we were at the Waldorf. And if we were at the Waldorf, it was either for the UN or because we were doing a fundraiser.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in the back having dinner together, because President Obama would always have dinner with us, because it's like, why would you eat alone? And so someone comes over to him and says, sir, you're not going to believe who was in the hotel also, Mindy Kaling. And he's like, huh. And I was like, shut the fuck up. You have to be kidding me. And I ripped her books out of my bag. And
do you need a briefing?
And he's like, what? And I go, you have to meet her. You have to meet her. She's so awesome. I love her show. And he was like, okay, calm down. And so he goes out to say hi to her. And he's like, there's one person you really have to meet. And so he brought her back and we became friends.
As you should.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, she was so wonderful. She helped me with my first book. She
That's
introduced me.
awesome.
Oh, she got me on Twitter. She's the one who's like, you have to get on Twitter.
Oh my God, I can hear her
We were
saying
having
that out of your
Moscow
mouth.
mules. We were having Moscow mules. She's like, let's do it right now. And so we did that. No, she was, for me, I find the most impactful books the ones that are the most relatable. You know, like where you can see yourself in them a little bit.
That's how I feel about So Here's the Thing. And I think everybody needs to go.
I
and
love that you
pick
love
up.
that it didn't even have pictures.
Oh, no, but it did. And my favorite part of it is that there's these little like sort of end caps that say,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
here are all the things in my luggage. And I didn't even have time to get to that. Like there were just so many things that I highlighted from this book. And you're just
You
so
know what?
open.
That is a great thing. I highlighted, that was one of the things about Mindy's books. I found myself highlighting different things that like were of the don't give up variety.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's like, thank you. It's just like, even if it's not, you know, you have to take it forward. It's like, yes, thank you. No one says that. Or yes, like, I've experienced that too. Just being able to have those moments, I think, is a really, really good connection in a book. So I want everyone to pick it up. I guess I feel like I could talk to you forever and ever. So I'm going to keep milking it. And one question I want to ask you is like, what do you feel like was the most rewarding thing that you brought out of this experience in like what feels like probably the coolest, best job you'll ever have, but it's not. It's just the beginning.
Oh.
Like, what did you take from that experience that you makes you who you are today?
So, two things.
Okay.
One, the meta, right, is that we are more than ourselves, right? Like there is so much more to this world than just us, and keeping that perspective is important. Another thing was that, you know, when you invest in people, it's nice to see it pay off. And so when we were leaving, I had already left the White House. There was someone who had worked for me for many, many years. He developed a very rare and treacherous form of cancer. He got a stem cell transplant. Everything was going well, we thought. And then we got an email, a handful of us, that said that his body was rejecting the transplant. And that if we wanted to say goodbye, we should get to Houston soon. And the thing that I am most proud of is that all those people who I brought together, who worked, we call it on the 18 acres, the campus of the White House. The email chain started with about 15 people. The email got to like 80 people. I got to Houston about 36 hours after we got the email, and there were 40 people, and then there were 60 people. And by the time I left, we could, I think over 100 people in toto showed up from across the world to say goodbye to him. And he spent his last days with his friends and beer and barbecue. And I was proud that the people who I had picked for all different reasons to come together the bond was stronger than the gates around the White House.
I love that.
Yeah. That's
Thank
true.
you. Thank you for that. Before I ask you my final question, where can everybody follow you on social? I feel like you should be doing more Instagram.
Okay, so
but Twitter
no,
is-
I've been Insta storying. I've really
good.
gotten into the Insta story.
Good.
Especially because I have a niece, JJ, Juliet Jean, who's just learned how to walk, and I think that that's hilarious. We have a hashtag for her, Drunk on Achievement, because she looks so like drunk, so happy because
my
she's
God.
learning how to walk. She's like, "Wah!" So my Instagram is at Mastro175. Which was where I grew up. Yes. And I'm private, but I go through and I accept. I just don't want weird bots who leave mean messages because my Instagram is only a happy place.
Oh, you're the special private profile. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
But I go through once a week and I accept people on top of people. And then Twitter is at Alyssa Mastro 44.
Awesome.
And that's the extent of my online profile. No Facebook for me.
No, yeah, same. That's not true. I have lots of Facebook assets. I just do not use them.
No,
so
I never
not
have.
interested.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I have to say, I'm pretty proud.
Don't worry about it. You should be.
It worked out great.
All right. My last question is, what does it mean to you to go after the life that you want?
What does it mean to me? It means that when I die, I'm going to know I did what I wanted to do. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Alyssa.
I sound like
No,
female
that's the
Matthew
one.
McConaughey. All right.
That's the
Chase
one.
the dream. It's okay. I love him. It's. I just saw that Beach Bum movie, which is hilarious.
Alyssa Mastromonaco, this has been extraordinary. Thank you for your time.
Detail therapy.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
So many details from this chat. Honestly, how could you keep track of them all? Well, we do. We do in the show notes. But here's a few that I think you should take note of. First, just because you have to do what you have to do, and usually that has something to do with paying bills and making a life for yourself starting out, it doesn't mean that your resume is crap. It shows work ethic. So if you're worried about all the weird positions that you've had in the past, NBD. Keep track of it all. Recognize the things that you learn from each of them and what you take forward. Bonus points for customer service experience, because that's what Alyssa was looking for when she was hiring. I love her tip about keeping your resume updated no matter what you're doing right now. I'm doing this as we speak. I am updating it. We are blowing the dust off this thing, but I'm updating my resume because you never know what's going to happen down the road. And I'm feeling pretty good about some things that I've done. And it's better to write in that voice than it is when you're in a situation of desperation and in need of a paycheck. So if you're one of those people that's thinking, I can get to my resume another day, no big deal. Maybe take a look at it now and just change a few sentences, add a few things, add a few skills that you might forget later when you're not really feeling it. Memorizing your schedule. I don't know if I have this capacity, but man, I want to so bad. This was my favorite tip from the entire episode. And I just now think, okay, instead of living by the minute, I'm scheduling my life by the minute, but I don't need to live by the minute. So I can go every week and really try to remember every single appointment by heart. That way you're less likely to be late because it's not, was it 2 or 2:30? Not really sure. And then it was 2 when you thought it was 2:30 because you didn't check. This memorization tip I think is so good and is so practical. And I just hope that you try it too, because come on, she managed Barack Obama. You gotta know the tips work. Don't forget to check out all of the details in the show notes. Those are found at detailspodcast.com. Just search for Alyssa's episode and you'll see pretty much everything talked about listed right there for you, linked up, all the things. And I know that there were probably a few more things that you wanted to know about. So check it out. Also, that stack of books that she's taking on vacation, she sent a photo over after our interview. So kind. Thank you, Alyssa. So I'm adding that photo to the show notes as well, just in case she forgot to say any of the books she's planning on taking on her vacay. This was such a memorable episode. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about the fact that it even happened. And I really appreciate Alyssa for her time and for being on time at that. Honestly, that was so many good parts of the show. Hey, if you want additional advice straight to your earbuds, I'd love to send you some simple steps for living your best life every day. And that is my free audio training, The 7 Essential Details for Going After the Life That You Want. To receive this audiogram, it's very simple. Subscribe to the podcast, take a screenshot that you have subscribed, and then email that screenshot over to hello@detailspodcast.com with audiogram please in the subject line. We'll get that audio right over to you so you can jump right in. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. If you'd like to discover even more actionable details, head over to AMYTV by typing the URL in your browser, youtube.com/AMYTV, or you can search for Amy Landino in your YouTube app. Make sure you remember to subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life that you want. Cheers.